Hello everyone, and here today we are with the Ekta Gandhi, and who is actually in the IT industry for the last 5 years. He was earlier in the Infosys in the ETA department. He's a full stack engineer, a trainer, an educator, and right now he's working with the Aviation Domain Company as a software engineer, and also the learning ambassador. So we are going to talk about today about the full stack engineering, whatever the roadmaps, what are the skills you required, how to become the full stack developer, what are the things you need to do, and everything that can be known about the full stack engineering. Also, we will talk about the IT industry, how to go into the IT industry, what are the role of a software engineer in some aviation industry. All these things we are going to talk about. So I want to welcome you, Ekta. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be the part of this event.
I'm very excited to talk about it. Yeah, thank you so much.
So, Ekta, first of all, I'll start by the first question, and that question will be: so, what is actually the full stack engineering? I mean, what is the role? What is the day-to-day job of the full stack engineer?
So, if we talk about full stack engineer, like I guess it's front end and back end both. Like front end and back end, what I mean is back end where you write your business logic, and front end whatever the UI you show. And above that, you need to know how to develop your web apps. Like if you have, the technology, the framework, but you should know how to apply those technologies and frameworks to build your web apps. Okay. Moreover, a full stack engineer now, what they expect is you should know, like once the application is built, you need to know how to deploy that applications, how to deploy, how to maintain it. Like I guess if we go by industry standards, so if you see all infrastructure now is on cloud. So as a full stack developer or engineer, you are supposed to know how to deploy the application that you are making, how to package that application, maybe Dockerize it. If you know the term Docker, you need to package it somehow. So a full stack, and in full stack, like front end web app, as I told, for front end back end, then I've told deploying it, maintaining it. Then you need to know about different databases also that we know, because obviously you will, as an engineer, you will be working on the data. So that is also a point where uh, a full stack engineer needs to work on. So it's databases, it's front end technologies, it's back end technologies, different frameworks are there. And as a full stack engineer, you need to know various tools also, like some industry standard tools that we use, maybe version control tools. You need to know about GitHub, right? Because that's where you want to work on. You need to know about Postman, like if you're developing a API. So different tools also you need to know how to work with those tools. So I guess that's full stack is the whole package. You need to know everything: deploying, maintaining, creating, and interacting, everything. And if we talk about day-to-day job, it's the first is whatever the problem is there, you need to have an idea how to solve that problem and give your best solution, like how to build that dynamic solution. So I guess that's your first job. Then again, obviously, writing, like whatever the requirement is there, you need to write that code. And that code also, like the code, like if you're writing some shabby, nobody is going to use that code, right? So
Right.
you should know how to write that clean code, or that dynamic code, or the scalable code.
Right.
So yeah, so that's the main point. Like I guess coding is fine, but how to write that clean code, it's very important. Like which is scalable and which is understandable, and how you are maintaining it. It's also a very important point in industry.
Total code quality also matter with the coding.
Totally, it matters. Like if your code is not following your code quality, then it's not going into production. So again, then there will be this code quality tools that you need to use, like maybe Soda Cube. You need to meet those expectations, then only your code is going to production. Else, it's not going if you're not meeting those requirements. So
Right.
only writing is not sufficient. Writing a good, clean, quality code is important.
So the thing is about the variation we were talking about. So if we are going about the full stack engineering, most of people get confused about that if I'm a full stack engineer, what kind of responsibility I got more? I got backend responsibility more, or I got front end responsibility more, because there's no specific roadmap for the full stack engineering. So that's why people very confused.
So if you talk about full stack means you know both the technologies, you know front end, you have no back end. So now it's based on the requirement. Okay, so like suppose you are building an API, right? So that is totally back end. You're done. Like API can also be a product nowadays, right? But I guess it's totally based on the project that you're working on, maybe your interest, right? So if like how you show your interest in going to that particular thing. But sometimes it's both. You create that API and integrate with the front end as well.
Yep.
So I guess it's totally based on requirement and on your interest else also. Like if you have two things to do, whatever you show your interest in, or maybe whatever is the business requirement, they tell you, okay, this is more important at this point. But as you claim yourself like as a full stack engineer means you know both the things, right? You know backend technologies, backend frameworks, and you know front end as well. So as a full stack, they expect you to be a, like a floating resource. They can put you in anything, I guess. Yeah, that's what I've experienced. So if you have told yourself as a full stack, so here one more important point is like as a full stack engineer, what they expect is because technology keeps on changing, right? It's not today we are using something, tomorrow we are using something. It keeps on changing. So as a full stack developer, what they expect is you should be able to learn these new technologies quickly,
Okay.
because if your basics are clear you can they don't expect like okay you have hired for spring so you'll only work for spring. It doesn't work like that. If the business requirement, okay, you were hired as a Java full stack developer now, but they want you to work on a Python APIs, right?
Hmm.
So you should be open to learning and quickly learn those and adapt to new changes. You can't be stagnant like, okay, I will also only work on Java. It doesn't work like that. So as a full stack developer, you should be ready to learn new things very quickly. That's also very important.
So how IT industry, put the preference? It's like, if IT industry have to hire, whether to go for the front end developer, back end developer separately, or they will prefer the full stack developer. What will be the hiring criteria can be in the industry and industry?
Obviously, they will prefer a full stack developer because they will know, okay, we can put that person in back end as well as front end, right? So nowadays, the more demand, if you see, it's always full stack developer and not back end and front end. So as like I guess everybody knows, nowadays we work as agile teams, right? So that's what agility means. You don't have to be fix on something. Maybe you can an expert on something. Okay, I know this like very much. I'm expert. I know A to Z of all of these things. But as technology changes, like if I give you a small example, suppose you told you were a Azure cloud developer, okay? Now, but your company decides to move on
AWS or
Amazon.
something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can't just say, okay, I will only work on Azure. You have to learn. Obviously, the basics are same, right? That cloud is cloud, but okay,
Right.
maybe there are some different infrastructure changes. How AK means Azure works is very different. How Amazon works. So you should be agile in that matter. I guess that's how industry work these days. Because technology keeps on changing. Today you're working on something, and the business requirement changes, and now tomorrow you're working on something else.
Like as you say, full stack have more and more flexibility rather than you become the expert of something. Then you will get stuck with something. Some. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Yeah.
All right. So, you have talked about the deployment and everything, and integration, CI/CD pipeline and everything. That is actually the job of the DevOps engineer. So, my question is, does DevOps part also come in the full stack development, or it's just front end and back end and databases?
Okay, like I would say not in all roles. You can read your job responsibility, but if you read the job responsibility of full stack engineer, they at least expect you to know the basics of your deployment thing,
Okay.
because DevOps will closely work with the developer, right? So you also need to put some, like, you need to dockerize your application and give the Docker image to DevOps, and then he can do something about it and deploy it, right? So they expect you to know at least the basics, maybe not the expert level, but at least they expect you to know the basics of the cloud.
Basic version
Because, like,
control,
if
basic
you have to
deployment,
access the
everything.
resource also, you can't just be dependent on somebody, right?
Right,
That
right.
he will give me the access. You should know how to work with those applications. So, because suppose, like, if CI/CD, like we are talked about, right? So if CI/CD pipeline is failing or some error is there, DevOps will come back to developer because it's developer's job to debug it. So you should at least know how to see the logs there. So if we'll say, okay, I'm not DevOps, I cannot go to the pipeline and see the log. That's not how it works, right? So at least in most of the job roles that I've seen, at least whatever I have seen, they at least expect you to know the basics of these things, not to an expert level, just the basics. At least you should know how to work around these things.
And the same goes for the testing also. Like as a developer, same goes for the we
As
have to
a
know basic
developer,
testing.
as we were talking about quality code, so as a developer, quality code is developer. It's developer's duty to write the unit test cases, right?
Okay.
So unit test, you write unit test and give it to your QA. So QA and a QA job and a developer are two different. They can't be mixed. Like, developer cannot quality test his code, right? So you can't mix that. That is totally different. Obviously, you can unit test. A developer can unit test his code, but to quality checking the code, it will go to QA only. So you can't mix those roles. Those are two different things, I would say, because you can't test whatever you have write the code, right? It has to go through somebody else for quality checking.
Right.
Those two roles cannot be mixed. I think the DevOps and developer, how it is mixed, is very different from what you're asking, like developer and tester.
Yeah. So
So
they are
that
a
to
lot
be
different.
mixed. Yeah, they are a lot different. They had to be a designated person for quality checking. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll back like so you have 5 year experience in the IT industry, and you have been in the two companies. I think Infosys was your first company, and then you came to your current company. So the thing is, like, what is the hierarchy in the software development? That is the thing. Like, what is the entry level job? And if I'm getting as a fresher, what kind of job I will expect? When I will go 2 or 3 years experience, what kind of job I will expect? So, what is the hierarchy level in the software industry?
Yes. So when you enter as a fresher, so, like, there are different terms that you use, right? In every company, that's different. So let's not go to the terms. I just talk about the job responsibility. When you enter as a fresher, you work as an individual. You're working on your code, and somebody is gonna review your code and everything about it, right? But when you go as 3 or 4 years experienced, now your role is also to guide others, and the review thing responsibility comes to you as well. So it's like a senior developer role. A senior developer role is to guide, like, whatever the new people in the team, ki how to go about these things. Maybe he will, obviously he will write code, but the guiding part, the mentoring part will also come. Like, if new person is coming to, like, obviously he will or she will have that questions, right? Okay, this is what I'm doing, is it right or wrong? Or the, now somebody has to review that. There is a peer review thing on all the teams, right? So that review part comes to the senior developer. So that so now senior developer roles comes to a reviewer as well, a developer plus a reviewer, and a guiding force, or maybe work closely with the architect to take major solutions. Like, you'll have an architect in the team, right? So a senior developer will be closely working with the architect to take the major decisions about the application. That the senior developer. Now after senior developer, I guess now you have to choose between
Lead
two
and
paths,
then
whether,
project manager, mostly.
exactly, like,
Yeah.
whether you want to be attached in a technical side or just want to go to a project management. Now if you decide, okay, you want to be in technical side, then you will be an architect or TPO, technical product owner, who has an gist of technicality. And if you don't like, you see, okay, I don't want to be in technical side, you can just go to the project manager side. So then there'll be two paths and you have to choose between them what you want to be based on your interest, like whether you want to be interested in technicality, then you'll be an architect solution, right? And a TPO or a product owner which has the idea of technology as well.
Uh, that's great.
But I guess that transition takes time.
Yeah, right, right.
It's like you need to have a good experience for that.
Uh,
Yeah.
So, what can be the roadmap? And I am asking you this question because, you have been in the training and assessment department of the Infosys, and we all in India, everyone know that, Infosys training is one of the best place to be, and everyone wants to be there. And, they provide training and everything. There's a 6 month, 4 months process of the training. A lot of freshers every year, almost 100,000 freshers came and took training, and you were part of that. And so, what is the roadmap? What was your experience? What training required, and what a person required to become the full stack, and what a map path for them to become the full stack
If
engineer.
we talk about roadmap, I'll just share my personal experience. So when you come after 4 years of college, right, and then you get into company. So the college and corporate world are different things totally. So we do obviously know how to write code and everything. We know how to build logic and everything. So I guess if a new person is starting, he should start with a language like Python, which is not very strict with the syntax,
Hmm.
and start building the logic in the mind, because at the end it's all about logic. So if you choose a language such as Python, so you will be able to build the logic and at least write that logic. And okay, then you move toward a like if you're going as a full stack development, like Java is an industry standard, I guess. In all the things it says Java, 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 right? So go to a language like Java. Now, languages Java is not sufficient. You need to learn the frameworks also, which work with Java, right?
Hmm.
So if you're going to full stack development side, now you have to learn a backend language and a framework. That is also very important. Only learning Java is not sufficient. Now you learn a framework, and then obviously you need to learn a front end. Now, if we go about front end, now this Angular, React, everything keeps on changing. So I would say learn the basics like
Right,
JavaScript, HTML, CSS. They will never change.
right, right,
So if the basics, you can learn any framework, be it React, be it Angular, because you know the basic drill.
right.
So you should always go behind the basics, like learn JavaScript, HTML, CSS, because
And also,
framework
yeah, right.
keep coming.
Actually, one study, shows that JavaScript actually crossed everyone. Actually, JavaScript become one of the top language in all over the world. So, if you will just type
Because
over,
that's
yeah,
the standard. That's the basic. If you learn JavaScript, HTML, CSS, you can learn any framework, any front-end
exactly,
framework.
exactly. Yeah, exactly, as you
So
say,
yeah,
because
the roadmap is very simple. Start with a language which is not very strict about its syntax, like a Python.
mhm,
Start building that logic. Start writing. Now the coding is not something you can read and learn. You have to do it. Until unless you write the code, you cannot just do it. It's about doing and not learning.
right.
And then you move toward your fix, like how to, and try to build that web application when you're learning. So that's the roadmap. Now, once that application is done, again, as telling, you need to know how to Dockerize it, like deploy it, how because at the end, client will not take the code; he will take the core part of it. Like you have to give it to the client. How will you give it? You need to know how to build it. Now, again, you need to learn some build tools like Maven or Gradle or something like that. So that is also very important. So you need to know how to manage your dependencies, because like again, then it's called as how to work with third party frameworks or third party tools. That is also very important, because you will be using so many third party tools in your application integrating.
Like,
So you
can you
should
give some
know
of the
that.
example like third-party tools that people, need to
Maybe
do basics?
yeah, if you're a developer, you need to do unit testing or logging, right?
Hmm.
which is are not functional but non-functional requirements that we say,
Right.
right? Logging or exception handling. So you'll be using a third party thing, and you need to know how to add that dependency and use it. Because as I'm telling, a quality code is not complete without exception handling or
Exactly.
logging and everything. So that is also very important.
Exactly. Also, like for the security system, we use JWT sometimes, we use Postman
Right.
sometimes. So these kind how to install packages, all these things are also very important.
No, right, exactly. So start with very basic and then keep building. As I've told, like you have to keep learning. That's the way. You
Right.
can't be stagnant. Like you need to have that mindset to learn as much as you can.
Right.
So IT industry is one industry. Once you stop learning, you stop growing. You have to keep learning.
Right. Exactly. So, my next question will be like, this is very become strange for everyone. Like an aviation industry need a software developer. So, what can be a job of the software developer in any aviation industry?
Yeah, that's very right. So aviation industry, I guess it's very new in India. Like that we're trying to build up that atmosphere about aviation. So if we talk about what's the role of a software engineer in an aviation industry, so if you see the if you take a flight taking off, it's not just that. There are so many in-flight operations, and there are so many operations before and after the flight. So, like as any industry, if it's a banking industry or anything, you use software, right, to manage things. Similarly, for aviation industry, there are software for managing everything.
Okay.
So
No,
that's
like my
been
question was because most of the time if we talk about the IRCTC like Indian Railways industry, or we talk about the aviation industry, mostly there's a one ticketing system. Okay, I have to book ticket, you have to, everyone have to book ticket, and
okay. I guess we are deviating. Aviation is not ticketing, that is airline.
okay,
Correct? Airline is doing ticketing,
right, right,
correct? And not the companies who are in aviation. That's
okay,
like the software used in the plane, in the cockpit,
okay, okay,
or the software to manage the fuel, or
okay,
software to see the weather,
right.
right? Talking
Navigating
about
to the controllers and
exactly,
everyone, right?
exactly. I'm talking about those softwares, not the ticketing
Okay,
solution.
okay, okay, okay,
Ticketing
okay.
solution is used by an airline, correct?
Right.
That is different. So
You,
aviation is not ticketing solution. It's the operation inside the cockpit, or to manage like how the plane will fly, or how the operation surrounding that plane will work. And one of the most interesting thing about aviation industry, there is so much scope for innovation.
hmm, right.
So you can think to build new solutions.
Recently I have heard that SpaceX used the JavaScript in their Dragon X, space shuttle. So then I have got also realized, and I have put this everywhere that yeah, like even aviation industry, even the space industry are also using the these type of languages, these
Everything,
common
like
languages. And,
how to manage your fuel, right? How to see the weather, how to navigate, like, and so everything works on software only.
right.
Or maybe in flight, if like cabin crew uses all the softwares, right? That is also being.
Uh,
So aviation is not about ticketing. It's very different. That's the solution
every
airline
functionality
uses.
that's going on during the flight is the aviation
In
industry.
the that's like
Right.
inside the cockpit or
Exactly.
outside the working of the plane. So that's what aviation industry is about. And as I told, like there is so much scope for innovation in aviation industry.
Hmm.
That's the most interesting part about working in aviation domain.
And it must be exciting, very exciting.
So yeah, because it's a different thing, right? It's
Right.
like something different and exciting, and we have the scope to innovate new things.
So I will,
When we talk about JavaScript, so those solutions also uses the same languages, or like SpaceX we were talking about, right? So they're also using JavaScript or Java or
okay.
HTML or CSS maybe, right? There is no like special technology for it. It's the
Right.
same technology, but how they're using it, yeah.
So I'll conclude this whole talk, and with one last question that what will be your one line advice for everyone who you want to make a career in the software industry?
So the one line advice is never stop learning, and like learn and do it like practically. Do the hands-on practice of it.
Yeah.
That's the don't be saying look, I've learned one thing. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to learn what's trending in industry. Then only you'll be able to survive. Because as you see, every day trends keeps on changing. So you have to keep updating yourself.
Thank
That's
you.
the advice I.
Thank you, Ekta. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for accepting it, and your insight will help a lot of people. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sanjit. It was great talking to you.